Hi.
Hello, how are you?
I haven't seen you since January 1st.
I know, we still haven't seen each other. We're still not seeing each other.
And we're still not seeing each other. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, great. Now I have alarms going off. Hang on a second. Time to do something. I think
Time to talk to me.
it's time to, yes, that or bake my sourdough. Yeah. Some other quarantine thing. Time to talk to Giulia.
Look in the mirror in the morning. A brand new line is like a warning. You're going too fast. You pour your coffee in your mug. You sweep your problems under the rug. Questions asked.
Welcome to Friends with Deficits. I'm your host, Adam Sultan. And that was and is Giulia Millanta, my next friend. She's an incredible musician, singer-songwriter, and a number of other things that she's going to talk about on this episode. So I hope you'll enjoy it, and here we go. You're from Florence? Is that correct?
Yes.
When did you move to the States?
80 years ago.
80?
80, yeah. 800 years ago. It feels like 80. No, 8.
8, okay. What made you settle in Austin?
It was charming, and I knew people. And people seemed to be nice to me and to like my music. So there you go.
Pretty good. You seem like an Austin music fixture, like you've been here forever.
Oh, I guess that should be a compliment.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You've been here forever. You ever think of other places? There's places to go, you know. So what are you doing these days in the midst of this world we live in?
Everything.
Really?
I'm doing everything.
That's good.
I mean, maybe everything is it's an overstatement. It's a bit too much. But I'm doing a lot of things, like from freaking out and crying and screaming at God, like, why? Help, to being extremely productive. I'm a musician, and we know that. And so I play music. I do live shows online. I write music. I play the guitar. I practice, blah, blah, blah. I also started doing a bunch of other things. Like I started pottery during this quarantine time. I started growing a garden. I cook regularly, but now I'm cooking even more. I'm doing cooking classes online.
Nice.
And I just finished a book, which will be released in September. And I'm editing another book. And also a cat adopted me, and she's hanging out in my house, and she gave birth, and I was a midwife for my stray cat. So these are all the things I've been doing.
So same old, not much going on. COVID. I understand. It's a hard time. Yeah. That sounds great. That's inspiring.
You know, this 2020, I must say, it makes sense. It's all such a weird fucking year. And it started, I celebrated midnight in an Uber with this lady in her mid-60s wearing this weird hat with flowers and shit on it. And we were like, oh, Happy New Year. I was like, this was the beginning of my year in an Uber with a stranger going like, I hope this is a great year and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, wow, this is a bit weird.
That's funny. That'll set the tone.
Yeah, definitely.
I think I was probably singing changes on stage. So that happened.
That happened. Be careful what you wish for and be careful what you sing.
Yes, exactly. Or no, I guess it was Space Oddity. Even same thing. Shooting off into a new dimension.
For sure.
Never able to come back again.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's for the best.
I think so. I think about where we're going. I'm sure everybody thinks this. These are not good topics to ruminate on.
Well, it depends on what we say about it.
Well, unless we have some like
super
smart wisdom and
enlightening
that no one's ever considered or heard before.
Right. Do you have any of that?
I do not. If you subscribe to my Patreon page, no.
There you go.
Special episode.
Give me a lot of money and I'll reveal all my secrets.
There's a lot of people who do that.
Oh, yeah. Actually, just any church, basically.
Pretty much.
Give me your money and I'll make you happy.
Yeah. Are you happy?
Well, yes. Yes, I am.
There's a pause.
What makes me pause is the definition of happiness, which is not the same for everybody. So I'm happy. I mean, I'm not sure what the official definition of happiness is, but according to mine, I am. I'm not happy all day, every day, but I'm happy most of the time. There are moments, I'm human, and there are moments in which I feel discouraged or sad or worried, all of that. But overall, even during this crazy times, I have a lot to be grateful for, and lots of things that keep me engaged and alive and happy to be alive. Even just the pottery thing, which I just started. It's awesome. It makes me happy.
That's cool.
Or I gave birth to kittens. I mean, not really.
Whoa! You heard it first, folks.
Yes, the cat lady is about to reveal all her secrets and make you happy and a millionaire.
Oh, man.
It was a great experience. It was intense. Like this cat, a stray cat, trusted me enough. She started hanging out in my backyard and I fed her. Okay, sure, I fed her. So she kept coming back. A stray cat usually doesn't let you pet her, or she doesn't come into the house, and she did it right away. Like she chose me as her human being. And then she got pregnant and she delivered in my closet, and she was, she was there for me to help her. She wanted me to be there. It was crazy. I felt really weird and kind of privileged. And it made me happy. Like an animal chose me to be with her. That's cool.
Yeah.
Are you happy?
I am. It's been a long process. I think I've always been happy somewhere in my heart, and I've always had a really good sense of humor. But I've also
let others say that. I'm kidding.
I mean, just taking things, being able to see the humor in things, but I've always leaned kind of depressed and anxious one way or the other. Now I have a much more balanced life, I think, and much more, I don't know, life energy or something like that.
So what was the process? What got you there? What are you doing?
It almost feels like just like growing up and making better choices all the time. That and meditation's been a big part of my life for over 30 years. And also just a lot of just changing habits and realizing how much agency I have in cheering up myself, that it's not about waiting for something to happen,
Right.
Waiting to call some magic cat lady to tell me what to do,
Also, maybe switching to better drugs. No, I'm kidding.
Exactly.
Do you talk about drugs on your podcast?
Sure. Nothing's off the table. In fact, are there any on the table?
You do.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about drugs?
No, not really, because I don't do drugs.
I don't either. So.
The only thing I do is ibuprofen when my head hurts.
What about drinking, did you say? No?
Yeah, well, yeah, I drink, but I don't, I drink in moderation. I'm Italian. I mean, there's no other way around it.
Right.
Like it's wine is part of my culture. In Italy, people pretty much drink every day. They drink a glass of wine with their dinner.
Right. I find I don't drink wine very much, but I like to drink cocktails, and I like to make cocktails. And I used to like to make cocktails for others, and now I'm slowly learning how to like put things in a ball jar and take them to someone's house and pour them in glasses in the backyard with masks on.
I like making cocktails. I don't do that very often, and also it's more like a social thing. So
Right.
I don't make cocktails for myself.
Right.
but I enjoy it. I invented one, which I'm not gonna share
Oh,
with you. No. I will share it. Like, I won't share the recipe. I can
right,
share the cocktail. Like, you can come here and sit in my backyard, which
right.
is lovely, and see my little kittens,
Oh
and
man,
I'll make you a cocktail.
that sounds great. Would
Yeah.
you share it with me once I have it, or is it still a secret? I'm gonna have to
Not sure.
reverse engineer it, huh? Okay.
Yes. If you guess the ingredients, I will confirm.
All right. It doesn't have any magic in it, does it?
Of course it does.
Cat lady magic. What's it called? What's the drink called?
I don't know.
No, we'll have to give it a name.
You're right.
Yeah,
For now, let's call it the Millanta
the Millanta, of course.
or the cat lady.
The cat lady's good too. Yeah.
Yeah,
What's cat
the
lady
cat.
in Italian?
There's no. Let me see. You would say Gattara.
Gattara. Okay.
Hmm.
I wanted to jump off and talk about why I'm talking to you.
Sounds good.
Because you actually invited me. You said, like, I'll be on your show. I've got lots to talk about. And when I was describing the podcast, do you remember that?
No.
You don't. Seriously?
You mean on New Year's Eve?
I guess so, yeah. That's why I've had you on my list for a while. I was like, Giulia wants to talk about something on Friends with Deficits. I wonder what it is. So, so that's what.
What's the name of this podcast?
See, it's called Friends with Deficits. It's normally a show about different life predicaments and things that people have gone through. Usually, but not always health related. Sometimes social stuff. Sometimes weird afflictions or habits. You know.
Oh, okay, awesome. I guess there are things we can talk about. You know, I'm a doctor. I took a degree in medicine, and I never practiced, and decided to be a full-time musician. That's one thing.
That's pretty rare.
Yeah, and the other thing, I was in a coma.
Yeah, I see that on your website. You were in a coma for a few days. Back up. What happened?
I just fell off a horse. I still ride
You
horses.
just fell off a horse, as we all do. Where and when was this?
It was in Tuscany, where I'm from, and I was 12, so a few years ago.
Yeah. Was it anything particular? Like, were you doing jumps or something, or you just threw you, or?
Yeah, that day I was doing jumps.
Were you really?
And, yeah.
Wow. Okay. You're a good
And I
rider,
fell.
then, I assume, or you were.
Yeah, I'm pretty good, but I had fallen various times before then. But that one was evidently was the right one, was the good one. And after that, since I was a little girl, my parents didn't want me to ride anymore, so I didn't ride for several years up until I was 18. And I was like, okay, I'm 18. I can decide for myself. I'm gonna ride again.
And the coma thing, was that like a big deal? Was it? I mean, coma doesn't sound like a small deal.
It's funny because it's one of those things that it sounds a bigger deal to those I tell the story to than to me, because I lived I was that person. And for some reason, when you're going through something, I think there's a resilience, and just, you are in it. And so it doesn't feel as big as when you look at it from the outside. Does it make sense, or am I completely crazy?
Yeah. Well, did you have like any kind of process of rehabilitation, or was there any like long-term damage, or?
Well, long-term damage, but probably. I'm not sure. No, actually, honestly, my coma was not a deep coma; it was a lighter one, and it was just a couple of days. And no, I mean, surprisingly, after an accident like the one that I had, there's like 1% chances to be completely okay, like not even have the slightest complication, and I'm a 1%. So
Wow.
I feel pretty lucky, because what happens is that, well, I fell, my skull broke, which is why I got into the coma. And so what happens is that there's a part of my brain that's kind of, let's call it scar tissue, for lack of a better word, or to make it more, accessible to people. Like, I have a scar in my brain. So usually the what happens is that you have at least seizures or something like that, or some sort of deficit. Since it was in the back, where the area, the vision resides, I could have had at least some visual impairment. But I don't have that. I don't have any, I don't have epilepsy. I never had any seizures. So I'm extremely lucky. And then I was in the hospital for a long, long, long time. And when I started recovering, they were about to discharge me, and the chief of the neurosurgical team, whatever, he had a son my own age. And fun fact, the son and I ended up, we went through medical school together, by the way. Yeah.
Wow.
But at the time I didn't know. And the chief was like, if this were my kid, and he could relate because we were the same age, he said, I would totally open the skull and make sure that everything is okay. Because yes, the swelling went away and everything looks good on the outside, but there's no way of knowing for sure unless I open the skull and see what's inside. And so my parents were like, okay, we trust you. Let's go ahead and open and see what's on the inside. And guess what they found?
I don't know. I have no idea. Bunch of cats.
And pottery and dreams. And
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
actually what they found is that there was a tiny, teeny tiny fragment of bone resting against a vein. And so that was the kind of thing that, had they not opened my skull, it was like a bomb waiting to explode any minute. It could have one day just tear the vein and give me an internal bleeding into my skull, and I would be gone. Like, bam,
Yeah.
And so when I think about this thing, it's amazing. Like, not only I didn't die from the accident, but then I didn't die a second time because this man decided to open up my skull and make sure that everything was okay. And now I'm okay. I mean, I have several problems, but
We'll get to those.
we'll get
Did anything about that make you decide to go to med school, or was that a separate thing?
Yeah, I guess maybe it gave me some ideas. The thing is that I was 12, and what I saw in that month and a half in the hospital was really amazing, because I saw people that work so hard and they have such huge hearts and devotion and dedication for what they do, and they want to just make people feel better. And I decided that that was amazing, and I wanted to do that. And then I realized halfway through medical school that I still wanted to do that, and I wanted to make people feel good and better and provide some service in a way, but I couldn't do it through medicine because I just wasn't happy doing that.
There's not enough time to sit and stand still. You gotta work hard, keep climbing uphill. Today's a feather, tomorrow's a bird, yesterday's gone.
I've always been in love with music since I was a little girl, and that love kind of kept growing. Music was always my go-to thing, was my refuge, was my companion. But it wasn't an option in my family. Everyone has a degree, everyone has a solid job, and so it wasn't an option to be something else that was not solid or acceptable according to,
Right.
certain rules. And so I went to medical school, and then medical school in Italy is 6 years. And at
Hmm.
my fourth year, after years of complaining, like, okay, yeah, but I'm not sure if I want to do this. I'm not sure if I want to be a doctor. And everyone's like, yeah, 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 especially my father. Yeah, 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 that's awesome. Keep playing the guitar after you're done with your exams and everything. So I kept going, I kept going. And then finally, at my fourth year, I was like, okay, fuck it, I can't. I really want to explore music and see if this is really my calling. And so I quit medical school. It was a disaster in my family. My dad and
Oh
I didn't
no.
talk for years. It was like a major fracture, and all the in the family environment and the family balance. Like everything was just upside down at that point. And so I moved to Barcelona and started working as a musician, and I was supporting myself working. You know, I was playing some shows and doing little things here and there, and then eventually I was very restless. I was kind of devoured by all the what ifs. What if this is too hard? What if I can't? What if I'm not good enough? What if blah, blah, blah? And all the things that we say to ourselves to convince ourselves that we can't really do what we want to do. Anyway, I decided to go back to medical school. So I moved back from Barcelona to Florence. But I did it because I was also offered my first record deal.
You're getting offered a
Well,
record deal, but you decided to go back to med
I
school?
decided to move back to Florence from Barcelona because of the record deal. But I wasn't very sure about anything. My family was not very supportive, so I was on my own, left on my own to figure it all out. There wasn't much guidance coming from my parents, and also I didn't want to leave it undone. So I did. I paid all the late tuitions and all of that. Bear in mind that going to the university, going to college is not as expensive in Italy as it is here, by the way. I moved into a tiny apartment. I was working I was teaching voice lessons, and music theory and solfeggio and all that at a little school. So that allowed me to provide for myself. I was playing a few gigs here and there and working on the record. And in my spare time, I was studying medicine. Like I was doing the opposite of what my father advised me. And honestly, I've been gifted with a pretty good memory. Like I remember things easily. And so I just did it. I finished the exams that I had left, and I took my degree in medicine. This was 2007. And I was like, okay, I'm done now. As soon as I got my degree, I was like, this is it. I'm done. I don't need to explore any further. I know that I don't want to be this. And then in 2008, my first record came out, and and from that moment on, I never looked back.
The rest is history.
Yeah. And then in 2011, I went on tour for the first time in Holland.
How was that?
Well, it was the first one, so it was okay. I broke even. But that was a little seed that I planted, and in fact, now I've been touring almost once a year for the past 6 years or so.
Did you have to cancel anything due to COVID?
Everything,
Oh
and
man.
also because I have the new record coming out and the
Right.
book. They were all supposed to be released in June, and then I was supposed to go on tour here in the States and then back to Italy for some vacation and then on tour in Northern Europe in the fall. And of course, that's just all gone. And so I decided to move the releases to the book is coming out in September, and the record in October.
What's the book about?
The book is called Between the Strings, and it's
Is it fiction, nonfiction?
no, it's neither. it's
Ooh.
uh, it's just it's a little. It's like a booklet. It's a collection of little stories or things that I have learned or seen um, in my travels, in my life, on and off the road. It's a little bit of what it means to be a musician, the other side of being a musician, like the things, that we were talking about, the things that we do to keep ourselves sane and healthy, whether on the road or off the road. There's a chapter on travels. There's a chapter on food or fashion. Basically, I'm a bicontinental citizen. I spend my most of my time in Austin right now because of COVID. But otherwise, yes, there's Austin, but then there's a lot of traveling, and then a few months of the year out of the year I would spend in Italy. So you know, there's a variety of things I see and I interact with. So that's the book about what the book is about.
That sounds great.
Thanks. I hope it
Yeah.
is great. I hope people will enjoy it.
Yeah. There's like some real cat magic in there. Yeah.
It's funny because
Indeed.
I'm not a cat person, but for some reason life keeps giving me cats.
Then I'm afraid you may be a cat person.
I guess so. I want dogs, but I always end up with cats.
What other big life issue, problem, deficits, things you want to talk about?
Well, right now, I feel like I could relate to what you were saying earlier. Like, I've been struggling with different issues, especially it was hard to make that decision of quitting such a solid and stable career as a doctor and just jump this huge leap of faith into the unknown, which is music, and especially when you don't have any support from your support system.
Yeah.
So it took me it took me a lot of years to be okay, to stop being completely freaked out and paralyzed by fear.
You don't sound like you're paralyzed by fear though. It sounds like you work through most things.
Yes, thanks.
I mean, were there periods where you weren't doing any music and you were, underneath the covers and
Well, kind of, I guess. I think I'm a pretty brave person, and even in the face of terror, I just keep going. And I think at the end of the day, I just love music so fucking much that nothing could ever stop me, even though I was terrified. Like, seriously, like, I remember when I started playing gigs, I was sick for the whole week leading to the gig. Like, sick. I would make my body sick. Different ways that I'm not going to get into because some of them are gross. But, at least I would have, like, I would lose my voice constantly up until I would get on stage and it will magically reappear. I was in a lot of pain, like emotional pain, because what if I was completely out of my mind? What if I was blowing my life by making those horrible choices?
did you find anything to confirm that? Did you have any experiences where you had to question whether what you were doing was the right thing? Like, not feeling successful or people not
Well,
liking your music
you
or
know the answer already. I mean, is it possible to have a career in which everything is always like, and everyone is always supporting? Like, I've had my share, like,
No, but yeah, but I can't imagine you feeling all nervous and then getting on stage and then getting booed off the stage and you have to
right, yeah,
pick
yeah.
up your boots and do it again.
Right, right, right. No, that didn't happen because otherwise I would probably, I would have kept trying, but eventually, if every time someone is slamming a door in my face, I would probably eventually I would have quit. Um, But I've had my share of failures, my share of people saying that what I was doing wasn't good. I've had my share of reaching out to labels and agents and blah blah blah, only to be either completely ignored in the majority of cases, or just I'm sorry, it's not working out for us. You know, and I think this is kind of common experience for everybody, especially for musicians.
Yeah.
Um, I think at some point, what saves me, us, all of us, the world, is redefining what success really means.
Here, here. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, come on. We still think that success means I play the Madison Square Garden. Yes, I mean, if I were to play the Madison Square Garden, I would probably be famous.
Right.
Would I be successful? Those are two different things, and people don't really make that distinction. I mean, being successful could actually very well be not play Madison Square Garden and have the life that you actually want, that you feel like it's your life, and that responds to your needs.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I never had a real job in my life. Yeah, I mean, when I was in college, I waited tables for a year and a half just for fun, basically, because my roommate was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I never had a real job. I've always, one way or another, I've always been able to make it work and make ends meet with my art. I would have to get, I had to get creative, and, there were some struggles, but I think it's pretty successful as it is. Like, I get to live my creative life the way I want, and no one gets to say a fucking word. No, seriously, because otherwise you're just a flag in the wind. Depending on where the wind is blowing, you change. You don't have a core. You don't have a solid. You know, you're not grounded.
Right. And you're
Um,
chasing someone else's dream,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And whatever other people say, whether it's good or bad, that totally affects your life and your day and your relationships and your relationship with yourself. And it's hard. I mean, I'm still, I think I will never be completely like, okay. It's not like I'm the Dalai Lama,
Right.
but I've made huge progress since I started 10 years ago. Yes, there are feelings, yes, there are emotions, but you can be okay, you can be in the middle of it and still be grounded enough to enjoy your life and have a good quality of life. At the end of the day, that's success. Success means your health, in as in mind, body, and spirit, your relationships, whether they're romantic or not, friends and family and all of that, and your career. All of it. When all these things are in place and satisfying, then you're successful. And right now, it's like the carpet has been completely removed from under our feet, but we can still be okay, and we can still be creative and feel like, I feel like I can still do the things I love, actually even more sometimes, and just be true, stay as close as I can to my purpose, to the things I want to do. Our my head is the problem, and not because I broke it, but it's that's the problem. Like, the head gets in the way, and you
Yeah.
start thinking, and 9 times out of 10, it's not good. It's not helpful. It's not productive.
That's
You
some
know.
bad odds. 9 times out of 10, you're wrong.
Well, you get my point.
No, I know,
Like,
I know.
it gets in the way, and you start overthinking, and instead of doing. One of the best pieces of advice I've ever had is from a friend of mine. He's a horse whisperer. I used to work with him training horses, and so he would break horses, and then I would get on it, and we would train the horse to do certain things, like to respond to basic commands and all of that. And sometimes, it's hard, it's frustrating because the horse, you're teaching. It's like teaching a kid something that she doesn't know. And so I was on the horse, and I was trying to do something like show him how to turn right, for instance. Okay. And so you use the reins and you use the weight of your body, and it wouldn't work, and you get frustrated. And my friend would always say, okay, first create movement, and then you adjust it. And that is one of the best pieces of advice I've ever had, because up until you're just thinking about it and you're not doing anything, there's no way you can have a good outcome. So start doing something, anything, any movement, start doing something, and then you can redirect it.
Yeah.
But you can't redirect it unless you start doing it.
Yeah.
But we are trained to think that we need to have it all figured out before we take the first step. No, who said that? Actually, it's the exact opposite. I don't need to have my whole music career figured out before I play a show. Do it. And that will give you all the information you need, because that will lead to other things. Number one. Actually, number two for consistency. Number two, you will get some information about if what you're doing is good for you, if you like it, if you feel that's good for you. But until you start doing it, there's no way of knowing. And for fear of making mistakes, we are all we are all convinced, or we convince ourselves that we shouldn't do it because maybe that's not the right thing. Well, try it, do something, and then you'll see.
I use the analogy of a blank page or a blank canvas. Like if you're an artist or if you're a writer, that's your medium. It's this open white space. And depending on how you approach it, you could be completely filled with anxiety about what do I paint? What do I write? It's got to be perfect. And then you never start. Versus you could look at this thing and say, oh, this represents every single possibility there could possibly be, and none of them are wrong. You just start and it turns into what it turns into.
It's the relationship with mistakes that fucks it all up. Or that mistakes are bad. All my life I've been told that mistakes are bad. Actually, mistakes are great.
Especially in music or in improvisation of any kind.
And in life as well. Of course, it's harder when you make a mistake, or you're dating the wrong person, or you make a mistake and you lose money on something. Yes, but there are certain mistakes more than others that are just such a blessing, because you're gonna learn. And also on stage, who cares now at this point? With given the fact that I'm not I say that on stage sometimes, or I used to say that when I was on stage. I'm not a great guitar player, but I like to take solos because what the fuck? I'm gonna take solos and I'm gonna mess it up. And guess what? I'm not a neurosurgeon. I can totally mess this up and make mistakes on stage. And so what?
Yeah. Thank God he never became a doctor.
Exactly. I don't have someone's brain in my hands. I'm just playing the guitar. If I make a mistake, awesome.
Yeah.
So be it. And ever since I started changing the way I think about mistakes, I was just so much more free.
The road ahead, smooth as silk. I lock the door and
what else you feel like talking about?
I don't know. What was that? Was this good? Like, was this on topic?
Well, we never had a topic, so
right?
that's
But
good.
Along the lines of what your podcast is about.
Here's the one. This is kind of the litmus test for it. Every episode, I usually ask my guests about the benefits, since the show is called Friends with Deficits, which is a play on Friends with Benefits. I ask them about what the benefits are of whatever the experience, whatever they went through.
There are, for instance, breaking my skull and being in the hospital at such a young age. I think it was a great blessing for me. It gave me such an appreciation for so many things, and life being one of them.
Yeah.
It's such an experience that you don't go through so early in life. I saw people die, when I was in the hospital, people that the day before would come and visit me. You are in the neurosurgical department. It's not like you just broke a toe.
Right.
So you see some heavy stuff. And so being 12 and going through that was really like a life-changing experience. And I don't think, I've always been a pretty spiritual person, even when I was a little girl. And so I remember thinking, wow, I'm just so lucky that God didn't want me to die. Like, God didn't want me to die. Whatever God means, whatever meaning you attach to that word, yeah, someone really didn't want me to die. I guess when you go through something like that, you're like, okay. This is life, and life can just disappear any minute. Life can be taken away from me any minute. So I better live it at the fullest, at its fullest, because I may not wake up tomorrow.
Yesterday the sun was shining, but in my eyes the moon was rising. Restless child, moody, dark and wild.
So when's I was gonna say when's your next gig, but you do online stuff, right? No?
Yeah, at first I was doing it every week, and it was really good, honestly. And I was doing it at 3 p.m. here, so there were a lot of people from Europe that could watch. And then I moved to 6 p.m. Anyway, now I just do it like once or twice a month. Well, there will still be a record and a book out, so whenever people hear this, they can still go and buy it. Go buy some shit.
And you have a Patreon, right?
And I have Patreon, yes.
Yeah. Under Giulia Millanta?
Yes.
Cool. And cat magic and cooking classes, right?
Yeah, I'm going to start posting some cooking videos.
That'll be great.
Well, because people have been requesting them. Like yesterday, we made this awesome artichoke ragu pasta. It was awesome.
Wow.
And so someone was like, "Can you make a video of that and post it, please?" Yeah.
Well, I look forward to having a cocktail at your backyard sometime.
Well, let's do that. And, I'm really open, and so whenever you can come here. I've been extremely safe at this point, and also, it's the backyard. We can be 6 feet apart and safe.
That'll be great. All right. Well, thanks again for talking with me.
You're very welcome. But seriously, I would love to hang out. I look forward to it. Reach out to me anytime.
All right. I'd like to thank my guest, Giulia Millanta. You can keep up with her at her website, which is giuliamillanta.com. I'm going to spell it out for you. GiuliaMillanta.com. You can keep up with her music, her books, her recipes, and her cats, I guess. If you'd like to support our show, you can check out Patreon, patreon.com/friendswithdeficits, to be part of the community that helps support the show and gets exclusive access to outtakes, stories, other things I may be doing. I don't think I've got any recipes or cats in there, but, it's just a matter of time. And also, feel free to subscribe. Tell your friends about Friends with Deficits. Find us wherever you find podcasts, including our website, friendswithdeficitspodcast.com. Once again, I'm Adam Sultan. Stay on your horse.